Time to unpack today's conversation, and as you can imagine, we're going to talk about something that needs no introduction. That's the level of insecurity in Nigeria, especially over the past couple of months. The rising and resurgent cases of insecurity, from banditry to the insurgency across the country, is quite disturbing, to say the least, especially with the incidents of late from Niger State, from Zamfara State, from parts of Sokoto and Katsina, from Borno State, even where the the theater operations over there are recording some successes. They are still concerned about how well we're doing mitigating these criminal elements, but especially with regards to certain developments around kidnapping and banditry, there is a resurgence in this particular regard. Also in southwestern Nigeria, most recently, 25 passengers attacked, some of them rescued, 8 or thereabout rescued, but the rest are still in captivity, even with the combined efforts of non-state operatives like Amotekun. It is still one that calls for concerted effort to mitigate that. The House of Representatives itself just mandating its committees to look into what needs to be done to motivate and perhaps push the necessary security apparatus to do the needful to guarantee safety of life and property for Nigerians. So let's get someone who's pretty much well aware of the challenges that lies within the security architecture itself and what needs to be done to address it. Joining us on Daybreak this morning is retired General Oladele. Retired General Oladele is a coordinator of former military humanitarian coordinator Operation Lafia Dole, which is now known as Operation Hadinke in Maiduguri, and he's a consultant now and a humanitarian logistics expert. Retired General, thank you very much for making the time. We really appreciate you very much for joining us on Daybreak this morning. First and foremost, I'd like to start by just getting your thoughts on what you think is responsible for this sense of resurgence. Nigerians get this feeling that there is a rising tide of banditry, of various criminal activities across different parts of the country. What do you make of it as an insider on this one? Unfortunately, I think we're having some few challenges with regards to the connection. We are going to be in conversation with retired Brigadier General, actually, Dele Tajuddin Olabode, who is going to help us unpack some of these things. So we're going to try and sort out the connection issue there. But I mean, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? Talking about insecurity. I mean, just moments ago, we were talking about the situation here in Abuja with kidnappers, with one-chance operators, with criminals, and other elements like that. And it's spreads across the country, unfortunately.
And true. One does not understand. There have been various perspectives trying to understand what's happening. For some others, they are saying it could be that there had been some kind of lapse because of the series of takeovers and handovers that are happening following the retirement of several generals, you recall. But I understand how this formation works. There is really never a vacuum. And so there had been strong argument also against that being the reason. But somehow you kind of get the sense that these things are coordinated, because you're trying to deal with something from one place and then it erupts in another. The case of Zamfara, you know, at some point we thought they had been sufficiently suppressed and may not be able to coordinate. And
then there's the politics of it, especially with the Zamfara situation, where the state government is accusing certain federal government agents or personnel of negotiating with the bandits, using a back channel, and that in itself is counterproductive to the whole conversation about security. I mean, obviously we've come to find out that even some elements within the traditional institutions within government have been compromised. I mean, in Zamfara, for instance, I think a year or two ago, under the Motowale administration, one of the district heads was relieved of his duty for even giving a traditional title to one of the notorious bandits who has been known to maim, kill, and kidnap people in the area.
You talked about the politics of it. You recall that some of the investigation we did also suggested that those titles were actually given with the blessings of the state government. Apparently, when it turned out that the public reaction to it was in bad taste, they decided to distance themselves, and since it was within their right to act in the way they did, the traditional ruler was relieved because it will be difficult for the traditional ruler as it stands in the manner in which
you think it was a scapegoating incident there?
Basically, nothing more than that.
Right.
So there had been this forth and back. People are looking at, people are watching the scenes and trying to understand what exactly is going on at the top. And like we said here a couple of days back, it's about time that the president himself intervenes. I think the best way, probably, it's not to stop the Minister of State Defense from doing his work, but there is the senior minister, or how are we supposed to refer to the substantive?
Former Governor
Defense Minister, who can basically, take over these conversations and get us move forward.
Okay, we're deciding to switch lanes now. Earlier, we were supposed to have a conversation with retired Brigadier General Oladele Tajuddin Olabode via Zoom. But now we're going to have to go with the next best thing, which is a phone call, and we're happy that the retired brigadier is patient enough to stick around and have this conversation with us. Good morning to you once again, and thank you very much for joining us on Daybreak.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Right. I just wanted to get your initial thoughts on this sense of resurgence of banditry and insecurity across the country, because most Nigerians feel like a couple of months ago, perhaps we might have seen a decrease in some of these activities, but now, whether it's Kaduna, in Plateau, Niger, Zamfara, or even as far as the southwest in Ondo with the recent kidnapping attempt on worshippers, give me a sense of what you think is happening here. Is it fair to say the scale of the solution, the problem outweighs the scale of the solution?
Thank you once again. You know, our problem in this part of the world has always been a great departure from conflict sensitivity. Because this problem, like when you look at the one that happened in Ondo, along the farm Benin Owo Road, these areas have always been a flashpoint. You remember in the past, that's why a king was returning to his base at Ifan. He was coming from Akure. It was along the same highway that he had problem. So in a situation like that, those areas supposed to always be cordoned off, so that there are so many ways, continual patrol, areas that you could not cover, even though you have all these technology to handle things for you. In those areas that you won't be able to cover, we used to say in two ways. If you want to use a weapon to cover it by fire, or constant patrol. When they feel the presence that within a couple of minutes, a patrol vehicle will be coming maybe from Benin axis or from Akure or axis. So that means that will now give you that opportunity to dominate the entire space. Right. The moment those guys know that if you hardly come around, they hardly see your presence, they've now capitalized on those gaps created by you. Because if you have done a thorough analysis of how disposed you should be on that general area, they will know that definitely it will be difficult. You make the place, you deny them that freedom of action.
Right.
But the moment that space is created for them, they strike within a second, about 1 minute. They carry whoever they want to carry, they enter through the bush and they disappear.
Right.
It is, in most cases, we are not always being proactive. That is where our problem, this problem is recorded.
Right. Yeah, I just wanted to ask, a question regarding these unmanned spaces, the flashpoints that you talk about. From your experience, do we have the capacity to man every flashpoint, every volatile area that poses a security threat? Do we have that capacity, from the Nigerian army to the police to the civil defense? Do we have that capacity to do that?
in a joint environment. Why not? You sectorize it. It will be sectorized, and the patrol could be on shift basis. Maybe in a week, the military will take this side, then the other week, police, civil defense, and all of that, even in collaboration with the local vigilantes. You know, the where we are having issues is because we are too far from the immediate environments. And those are the things that were building up over the years that now cumulated into where we are today. Because if we interface with the locals, there are so many ways to get them on board. That is what we call ownership participation. Let them know that you are coming as a security outfit to further strengthen what they have in the local area to guarantee them security, uninterrupted security and human safety.
All right, General.
The moment when you look at, yes.
All right, finish your thought before I come up with a question.
Okay, when you look at what has been going on, in most cases, most of the decisions that we take regarding how to combat all the security of a thing, we are always too far from the local people. I continue to reiterate it everywhere I find myself. Because there should be a form of template which will now allow us to guarantee all inclusivity in combating all these crimes. Fighting irregular warfare is not an easy task. It's demanding and tasking and capital intensive. You use both physical presence, you use fire coverage to cover the gaps that area you will not be able to cover. You deploy in a way and set up machinery in a way that whatever is happening there, you have drones, you have all those things. I don't know why we could not incorporate all these things into our security architecture. You can't be everywhere. That one is back casual. But what you do, areas that you know that you won't be able to be covered every time, there are ways they cover it. Unmanned air vehicle, then or sometimes when you do it now, then you register those black spots. You register them as targets. So once the information, you get the information and the people that are from all the activities going on there, they are registered as targets. Then you now deal with those people there, sometimes patrol. And they decide that, you know, the problem that there is a disconnect from the military, the security groups and the locals. That's why those people, those bandits or the insurgents, that's why they are always able to coerce these locals to be in their support.
All right.
You see that sometimes.
Okay, General, I understand the sense you are making, but some Nigerians would also say that it does appear that what we have seen largely as the strategy deployed by our security is one that basically attempts to respond after an attack rather than taking the war to these people. I get you when you talk about coordination, where you talk about community collaboration, which is the whole concept of the Operation Hardened Care. But what about the strategy to actually take the war to these insurgents, meet them and you disorganize them before they even plan and execute any kind of attack on Nigeria? What exactly happens around that kind of strategy?
It's easily said and done. These guys, in most cases, when you look at them, they know this issue, this approach you are trying to advance now. They are aware of it themselves, and that's why you see them. In most cases, they deploy in such a way that they are not isolated from the locals. So, and if you didn't do your game plan very well, you didn't do your estimate as per the operations in the field very well, you have the tendency for you to run into crisis. Because if the military, if you are to engage them from far, whatever high-tech hardware you want to use, they have what they call beating zone. That is, in the land area, they will displace us from all those things, whatever you have from there, the area that it will have effective impact on the whatever is in the vicinity. So you must consider all those things, and that's why they know that those kind of approaches might likely be coming at interval. That's why, in their own case, that's why they always make sure that they are not too far from the locals within the area they are hibernating. So it makes it very difficult. And the moment you don't have information that will lead you to actionable intelligence, once you don't have it, it's difficult. You can't just be firing without any. You must be sure of what the target you want to register.
Okay.
And make sure
General,
that you get it down.
All right. General, the sense I get is that somehow it does appear that as for the longest time, as far as this we have been faced with this incident, it does appear that the bandits have somehow been able to build a closer collaboration with the community than our intelligent community has been able to do. What exactly is responsible for this level of mistrust? Is it a case of communities handing over intelligence and being left at their own peril, where we have seen these bandits come back to punish them severely for attempting to share intelligence with them? What exactly can we do, to close this gap?
There are so many ways to do that, because there is what they call when the hearts are minds, that is developing social innovations. And these social innovations, the non-kinetic approach is what in most cases avails the government the desired results. But in Australia, it's capital intensive. Once those things are not already embellished in the general program with capital backing, it continues to make things difficult. Because there are so many ways. Most of all those people, those local people there, they lack so many things, basic amenities and all that. That's why I said the thing has been there over time. And those people, the gap created by those people those areas falling under ungoverned area. They were ungoverned areas before, when they were not feeling the impact of the government, and it's because of that long dragging of that ungoverned areas tendencies that made the place now become ungovernable. And it is those propaganda now that those bandits normally use to coerce those locals into their side. Because they say, okay, you are with government over the year, what have they ever come here to give any water, this and that? At times, some of these things, those bandits will carry it to them. Give them money, give them so many things. And in that regard, those people now deposed to sharing information with the bandits instead of the government side. And that's why when you are in the field there, sometimes when there is a different call, and you now decide to mobilize there, you discover that when you get to the ground, you will expect the locals to be the people that will give you the leeway through which you will be able to track those guys down. Right. But they will misinform you. If they're supposed to they move towards left, but the local will tell you that they've gone to the right. So you now try to explore that right. As you go deep there, you now look at it, because when you are going, if they are on fire on anything, you will see tracks, no matter how the place be. You could see some senses that people have just passed here. But when you now get up to certain distance, you discover that nobody has passed there. By the time you now retreated and you now come back to them and say, they've already informed the bandits that you have gone that side. That's why you see this issue of ambushes every time.
All right. And I think, General, it's fair to say that the one we saw in Niger State recently linked to the Godogide insurgents that led to the deaths of, tens of military officers and men of the Nigerian army alongside other security personnel. Very disturbing. However, on the locals part and the collaboration issue, even staying with Niger State, for instance, the state government recently talked about exploitation, where the bandits have resorted now to take this role as enforcers, as the law of the land, so to say, in some of these communities where illegal mining activities have been taking place for quite some time. I mean, there's that connection between illegal mining and the rise of banditry in some of these states like Zamfara and Niger State, for instance, right? And for the locals there, as a means to an end, it makes sense to pay off their tormentors by paying levies and things like that. Give me a sense of what you think is going on in that sector, where we're seeing a direct correlation between illegal mining and the rise of insecurity in some of these areas.
You know, when there is escalation, that is continued escalation in all these kind of hostilities, it's not just for free. Something that they must have underlying factors that is making those things to escalate. Because, and it still boils down on what I have said. Over the years, the mining, the gold deposit is not just being deposited there this year now. It has been there over the years. And by the time, after all, it's not bandits that started gold mining there before now. You see the same way of people now trying to defraud the government, the Commonwealth, defraud people of their Commonwealth because maybe they are disposed to certain level of power, corridor of power, or what have you. But over time, if those areas have been, if the extractive activities have already been formally established in those areas before, the local, definitely the benefit will touch everybody in the locality. So why did we wait till when this bandits? Because they look at it, they want to do the illegal mining. Even then, before, when they were doing it, they used to harm themselves. It's not like small blast. Because they will know definitely that they are doing something illegal, and there could be a resistance from the security outfit. So in that regard, they continue to have that problem. But we have allowed things to drag so much that it's now becoming a problem. Right. And those people, those locals, if I may tell you, they see those people oftentimes that even the government present.
All right, General.
And that's why those people were able to be coercing them. And now the most important thing that we can do, that's why they are talking of this non-kinetic approach. Right. To this problem.
All right.
There must be a design template that will make government to invest so much on this, developing social innovation. Once those things are the government, that one will now attract government presence to the localities. In that area, you could be able to turn those people's mind back to support the state.
Okay, I get a sense of what you are saying when you talk about non-kinetic, but still staying with this issue, especially when we look at the fringes of Maiduguri and all, how much do you think the situation in Niger, may have contributed to some of the resurgence that we are seeing? And in some quarters, there had also been talked about around some of the bandits that initially renounced banditry, returning back to the fringes and carrying out new attack. Do you think that we have succeeded sufficiently with the de-radicalization program around these persons, or what could we have done, to ensure that there is no relapse? I'd like you I'd like to have your views on these two issues.
So that's why in the past we have met on several occasions regarding this issue of Niger, ECOWAS, and all these. When problems like that come, you must consider so many problems. Who are having problems. That's why we suggested that time that the government should try as much as possible to be proactive in tackling that problem. Because now, the way the support, the collaborative support we normally get from those people, you don't expect it to be the same way it was before this issue of Niger coup of a thing. So, but the most important thing, even the Niger people too, they too will be required to be proactive too, because when you say, you want to, because of social problem affecting, you have issues with this man, in that regard, you now create a field day for this insurgency and other things. On the long run, the spillover effect will be adversely affecting their own country.
Right.
So, but with the way things are now, it's still the issue of being proactive. You know, in most cases, we are always reactive, and that's why some of these problems sometimes used to consume some of our resources and our
General, there's this sense, right, that although the military is a useful tool in addressing this security challenge that Nigeria has been dealing with for the past decade, that it is a square peg in a round hole, that the military is not well equipped or, you know, adapted to this style of guerrilla warfare. Do you think that over the years, from fighting Boko Haram and all these theater operations across the country, that the military is, you know, adjusting and adapting well to the ever-changing landscape of insecurity in this country?
You know, in recent times, the issue of equipment has been greatly improved upon. Training and all whatnot has always been upscaled. But one thing I want you to take away from me for free is the issue of fighting irregular warfare is not an easy task. It's not a small boy's work, but it encompasses so many issues or so many requirements for you to be able to achieve, to be constantly meeting, going along with the dictates of the situations in the battlefield there. Because one, you know, the problem the government side normally have is issue of conventions and all these protocols we are signatories to. We don't just go, they just attack from there, then we'll now go and bombard there. No, it is unethical. It will be unethical for the regular forces to do that. But these guys are irregular forces. And for you now to be fighting asymmetric warfare is a very complex warfare. And that's why, in most cases, you use all facets of approaches to tackle them.
Right.
You look at kinetic, and in most cases, kinetic doesn't work for you to achieve success.
Right, right.
So you have to look at non-kinetic. And in that regard, you must approach and develop these templates of ownership participation. And that's what I mean. You don't look at areas. You must be able to do something in such a way that you'll be able to win their heart and mind.
Right.
When you have information.
General, just wanted to get your thoughts on something that has been trending for the past couple of days. I mean, you've worked in Maiduguri, you understand the front line, you understand how hard the situation is for the men and women of the Nigerian army that are, you know, working day and night, putting their lives on the line to fight for the peace and security of this great nation. Recently, the Chief of Army Staff, Taoreed Lagbaja, has ordered an investigation into an allegation of poor feeding of frontline troops in Northeastern Theater of Operations. Give me a sense of how well we're taking care of our men and women of the Nigerian army who are in the front line battling this, because stories like this, when they make the rounds, we get the sense that this explains why we're not winning, because even the people that are supposed to be fighting for us are not well taken care of. What is your take on, you know, developments like this?
Where these are our area, these are our Africa and these West Africa sub-regions. You know, most of us, in most cases, we talk at times before we think. And we are unmindful. We are always unmindful of the weight or the side effect of whatever we are going to say out, or we are going to discuss, or we are going to share. When you look at the thing, the theater is a theater that is having three sectors. Each sector is like a division. You know how big a division usually be.
Yeah.
When you look at the thing now, by the time you see it now, some of these things, yes, there could be some element of truth, no doubt about that. But you look at the weight, the density at which people are now talking about the thing now. By the time the investigation is conducted, it will end up, in most cases, it has always been an issue of propaganda to just fight the government and the military for that matter. Because when you are in the front line there, you are saying you don't have anywhere to go and buy food. It's the same food you as a commander. It's the same food you prepare for the troops. It's from there you yourself will eat from.
That's right. All right.
And so the way with the coloration we give to things in these our people, exactly, every little thing we politicize it, every little thing we tribalize it, every little thing we regionalize it. So, and in that regard, even what is even on ground is another side effect on the part of people that have exposed their life to all those kind of things.
General,
the chief of army staff now said he is going to institute a panel that will now investigate. And you discover that most of the time, by the time the investigation report comes out, you will see that it will not be a great departure from the analysis of Joshua.
I mean, I quite agree with you that there might be some elements of exaggeration, but I also think there is an element of truth with regards to some of those challenges being real.
I mentioned that now. I corroborated that too now.
Right, exactly. Unfortunately, as much as we would love to continue, Brigadier General Dele, we have to anchor the conversation here for now. Thank you most kindly for joining the conversation, and we really appreciate your invaluable contribution to understanding this development that is perplexing a lot of Nigerians who feel uneasy about the state of affairs. Thank you most kindly for joining us on Daybreak this morning.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, that is our conversation with retired Brigadier General Dele Tajuddin Olabode, who was a former military humanitarian coordinator, Operation Lafia Dole, now known as Operation Hadinkai in Maiduguri, the frontline battle against the Boko Haram and ISWAP insurgency here in Nigeria.